I just really want to welcome you tonight. This is our opportunity for Speak Out for Recovery from Recovery Cafe. My name's Danny Eagleton, and I am on the board for the Recovery Cafe, and I'm also the clinical director for Seattle Counseling Services. I want to let you all know that the event tonight is going to be recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can just turn off your camera. Okay. I want to start out with introducing you to Ellie Hernandez. And Ellie is the ED of the Washington Recovery Alliance.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? My name is Ellie. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington Recovery Alliance. So happy to be here. I'm new to the Washington Recovery Alliance, so I'm new to a few faces here, some that I recognize and others that I don't. But I'm here also to say hello, to introduce myself, but to also introduce to you Vince Collins. We're going to be giving out the Vince Collins Awards. And so we are going to have Vince Collins, who the award is named after, to actually give the award to a person that I'm very excited about. So let me introduce to you Vince Collins. He is, in 2014, Vince helped identify and invite the participants and underwrote the travel and lodging costs for an initial convening of recovery allies. Out of this initial gathering, the Washington Recovery Alliance was born. At the Washington Recovery Alliance Summit held in 2016, the WRA presenting the Vince Collins Recovery Champion Award to Vince Collins. As the first of many awards to come, the Vince Collins Recovery Champion Award sets a precedent for future awardees who follow Vince's commitment to improving the lives of people in recovery. Vince's tireless efforts and well-being are and it epitomizes the WRA's vision of recovery and well-being so that they're realities for all. His legacy includes a much better organized, effective, and connected recovery community in Washington State. Vince is now the Executive Director of the Recovery Cafe in Clark County. So welcome, Vince. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for that. Are you ready for me to move forward?
I believe so. Take it. Yeah, take it.
So every year I try to be available so I can have the honor of presenting this award. For me, the award is about how we built a recovery community throughout the state of Washington, where people who are seeking recovery, who are in recovery, have a place and have people who will walk with them on their personal recovery journey. As we all know, recovery is more than just treatment. It's a life-changing commitment to being healthier and being part of a healthy community. And the cafes and other systems try hard to do that. This year, Luis Rosayas is the recipient. He works in Walla Walla to walk with those youth and adults in the recovery community to meet them where they're at, including in groups in jails and in juvenile detention, to get them on the path of recovery. And then he's there afterwards to be there to encourage them to continue their recovery efforts. So it's my great honor to give this award to Luis. Here you go.
Thank you, Vince. I'd like to thank Vince Collins for presenting me with the Recovery Champions Award, which is named after him. It's truly a great honor considering the extensive accolades associated with Vince. I also want to thank Ellie Hernandez, Executive Director of the Washington Recovery Alliance, and Melody McKee, Chair of the Board of the Recovery Alliance. I want to thank the committee members responsible for selecting the recipients of this award. Thank you to Malia Lewis, who unbeknownst to me nominated me for this award. Know that I appreciate the work you do and who you are, Malia. You are a great representation of Trilogy and who we seek to be. I understand that I sit on the shoulders of many great men and women who have come before me, who are still in the trenches doing the hard work, and those who are yet to come. The field of recovery is vital to nurture because people in recovery are worth it. They are worth our time, energy, and financial contributions. I have been fortunate enough to surround myself with very smart individuals. I am thankful to my board, to my staff, including Megan, Malia, Robert, Kristen, Carrie, Angela, Liberty, and the countless volunteers and supporters of Trilogy. Also a special thanks to Trilogy's founder, Kathy Ketchum, who introduced me to Trilogy's mission and work back in 2013. I am but a temporary steward. Until that role ends, I will continue to work hard for the youth, adults, and families we serve. This award is for all of you that I've named and for those that have gone unnamed but still do this great work. So thank you everyone for this great honor.
Thank you, Luis. Sounds like well-deserved award for you. Next, I would love to introduce one of my colleagues, a guest that I always have in my class when I can, Kathleen Murphy from King County Recovery. Kathleen is the behavioral health recovery person. Sorry. Yeah. Good to see you, Kathleen.
So thank you everyone for coming tonight. I have the honor of sharing our 2020 poetry and poster art contest winners with each of you. My role within the county is really to provide staff support to make sure that our system achieves a recovery orientation. And one of the ways that we do that is through community engagement. One of the tasks that we have each year, and it's a great pleasure, is to host the 2020 Recovery Poster Art and Poetry Contest. We do it annually. This year's theme was through a stakeholder process. We had people in recovery contributing to that. And the theme is Rising Above It All, Wellness, Resilience, and Recovery. These are unprecedented times, and we felt that that was a really fitting theme. So are we able to put up images today in today's event? Or let's see, there it is. So this is our first place winner of the art contest, and it's called Together in Recovery by Campbell Schleifers and Julia Raymond. I believe both are here today. So if you would join me in giving a round of applause, giving a thumbs up, any congratulations. Surely appreciate that. I'd like to read their artist statement so you get a sense of how the artwork really exemplifies our theme. Together in recovery, our dove represents all living things, all parts of the same creation, all instruments of love through recovery, resilience, and wellness. We can and will rise above the thorns of darkness in our past. In recovery, we carry the world forward to a better place. So this particular image will actually be put onto a poster, and we will be printing it in large numbers. That poster will be sent out to our provider network as well as our community partners. So it will be up on the walls of many agencies in the year to come. So our second place winner for the art contest is Maria G. Davis. I believe Maria is joining us tonight. So if you could, join me in a congratulations, round of applause, sure appreciate it. This is Together in Recovery. And here's Maria's statement. My entry expresses rising above it all, wellness, resilience, and recovery by showing that without self-forgiveness, we feel like we're not worthy enough to overcome, that we are not the sum of our mistakes. Really powerful artwork here. So thank you so much, Maria. I'll go ahead and move into our poetry winners. And we have a first, second, and third place poetry winners. Our first place winner is Gordon Hansen, who I believe is also here with us this evening. So go ahead and give us a round of applause and congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and read Gordon's poem here. I can do this. I can do this if I try. I can do this before I die. I am strength in many forms. I'm sentient, competent, and warm. I sometimes meet resistance. I will certainly need your assistance. In this or that instance, there might be a setback due to happenstance, but I will recover no matter the circumstance. So I offer encouragement to everyone. Draw strength from your life, from the sun, from each other, from your sheer will. We are our own cities on a hill. So really beautiful poetry there. Thank you so much, Gordon. Our second place winner is Clemens de Kock, and this poem is called Rising Above It All, One Step at a Time. Rising above it all, one step at a time, becoming whole, thinking social, strong mentally, connected environmentally, calm emotionally, all in one, to be able to self-nourish, to love, and be responsible for oneself. Start embracing change while living in the moment, one day at a time, in the right direction. Make self-purpose grow, corrections glow, one idea at a time, to follow up on. Make up your mind that change can be done. Reaching out to the top where recovery is the stop. Do maintenance with help from the right pill at the right time. Self-awareness stimulated. Sharing happy thoughts with newly formed connections. So really beautiful poetry there. Appreciative of such strong and powerful words. Our third place winner is from Brianna Bruman, and it's called This Girl. This girl I knew grew up way too fast, and nothing she did could erase her past. She thought it'd be easy with drinking. Everyone asked, "Oh, what are you thinking?" Because of that question and all of the stares, she drank more. Nobody cares. Until one day she drank one too many, got taken to the ER and puked up plenty. You are lucky to be alive, the doctor did say. Slow down, girl, you don't want to die this way. She told the doctor that she needed some help. Teary-eyed and slurred speech, it came out a yelp. A few hours later, she was headed to Seattle. Lord, she prayed, please help me with this battle. In detox, she heard of the rehab upstairs. I'm getting up there, she said, where everybody cares. 28 days later, they taught her everything she needed to know. With her knowledge and certificate, she was ready to go. Thank you to the staff at Recovery Place Seattle. I'll never forget who taught me how to win this battle. As you can see, this was a very difficult decision that our judging panel had to go through. We had many wonderful entries as far as poetry and the artwork. And we want to, say a special thank you to our winners, as well as the many people who entered the contest. Really, their creative expressions are not only powerful, but inspirational, and they were created in support of our recovery community. So join me once again in congratulating each of our winners and those that expressed themselves through art and poetry this year. Awesome.
Really remarkable. Beautiful artwork and just beautiful poetry. And it makes a lot of sense that you would come up with some wonderful poetry during this incredible time that we've been going through. Tonight, our focus with Speak Out Recovery is through the lens of people of color and people of color-led organizations. We have been through a lot in the last 6-8 months. And we want to have this conversation about recovery. And what I want to do right now is introduce our fantastic panel. They're going to introduce themselves. So we will start out with Irisima.
Hi, my name is Iracema. I work at Consejo. I'm the Behavioral Health Clinic Director at Consejo. And a little bit of background about myself. Was born in Mexico and came to the United States as an adult. And I just want to let you know that I'm very passionate about the work that I do to help improve the lives of individuals that we serve.
Fantastic. Victor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Liu. I'm the Director of Practice Innovation from Asian Counseling and Referral Service, ACRS. So this content, I'm going to use he, him, his pronouns. Very excited to be here. And for those of you that are not familiar with ACRS, we are a multi-social service organization that focuses serving on Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, immigrants, and refugees. But over the last 46 years, we have also evolved to serve all communities who want to access services for social determinants of health as well as behavioral health. And I'm just very excited to join the wonderful panelists today and all of you who are spending this evening with us. And happy last day of September.
Right? Oh my goodness, how did we get there? Colleen.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just have to agree with Victor that it is crazy that this is the last day of September, and I hope you all are having a wonderful evening and are enjoying this wonderful, beautiful day we've had here in Seattle. My name is Colleen Echohawk. I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. I belong to the Kitahaki Band of Oklahoma, of the Pawnee Nation, and also a member of the Upper Ottawa Athabascan people of rural Alaska, where I was born and raised. I'm currently the executive director at the Chi Seattle Club and also the founder of the National Coalition to End Urban Indigenous Homelessness. 7 years ago, I was on the board at Chi Seattle Club and was pushed into this role by some dear friends. And I feel very grateful for that because it has become an incredible joy, and one of the best things I've ever done is to jump into this work of supporting our relatives who are experiencing some incredible struggles. Around the country, Native people have the highest rates of homelessness out of any other group. If you consider that right now, we are all on Coast Salish territory, benefiting greatly from their land and water. We are on Indigenous land. This is called, in Indian country, we call it Turtle Island. And yet our relatives, our Native people, are experiencing the highest rates of homelessness. This should cause us all a moment of pause to think about how did we get to this situation. And I look forward to the conversation to understand how we are thinking and considering the impacts of trauma and how we are understanding what recovery means as we are emerging from a genocide. So this is a wonderful day to be with you all, and I look forward to a wonderful conversation.
Colleen, so glad you are here. Camille, can't wait to hear from you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille Anderson, and I am the Program Director of Recovery Cafe in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm excited to be here tonight and am honored to be on the panel today. If you all don't know, Recovery Cafe is a love-based peer recovery program in Indianapolis. Right now, we serve a large population of individuals dealing with homelessness. And we're looking to continue to broaden our reach in the community, especially reaching communities of color.
Thanks so much for joining us. So I'm going to ask the panel a few questions, but I really want to invite you all to add questions into the chat, and I'll try to get to those as best I can in the time that we have. All right, well, let's get to it. The first question that I want to ask is, what does culturally competent recovery support services look like? And the second part of that question is, what does that mean for your organization? Should I just pick, or does someone want to go first? Victor, look at your, oh, okay, go ahead. Iracema, go ahead. I see you.
Well, I'll go.
Okay.
So I think if I think about culturally competent, accessible recovery support services, I would always think about any services that can focus on nurturing the mind, body, and spirit. And I think that's really critical to support holistic care when it comes to recovery support services. And beyond that, if I was to think about what does this mean for my organization, OMG, my phone just rang. So if I were to think about what it means for ACRS organization that I work at, I would say that how we deliver the services that nurture bonding mind and spirit. Some example I will give you is that in a immigrant and refugee setting, sober support group and AA settings are very faith-based, and it may not be very relevant for the communities that we serve. So we evolve different support services model by including food in the support group. To me, food is a universal culture, and that allows us to share food and share conversation in a non-intimidating way and a more approachable, accessible way. So sharing cross-culture food that you literally nurture the body, mind, and spirits. And beyond that, then I think it can be, if we talk about accessible care that is culturally competent, then it can be also integrating components from that culture. So for instance, in the Asian culture, and perhaps in other cultures as well, singing and karaoke is a big thing. So we incorporate karaoke in our recovery support services group. So that's one example. And then when Zumba was a very popular thing, maybe it still is, but then our Laotian clients actually incorporate Asian Laos Zumba dance in our recovery support services. And I love the artwork that was being shown, because sometimes we are not able to articulate our thoughts in writing. And art therapy is such a very critical part, and ACRS does has an art therapy program. So that is some examples and thoughts that I'm sharing. And I promise to turn off my phone right now.
Well, thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
you want to go ahead?
Yes, I want to add that our consejo for organization, for us to be cultural competent, we hire cultural competent therapists. So cultural competency has to do with, cultural humility. The therapists are trained in cultural competence. We learn that we need to know where the client is. We can assume that we know everything about the culture or beliefs of the clients. We need to understand and learn from the client, and to be in the place of engagement. We need to learn to show compassion and understanding. Most of the therapists at Consejo, they're bilingual, so the therapists and the clients speak the same language. Most of the clients that we serve at Consejo, they're Hispanics. So yeah, so there is more to that, but that's what I want to add it.
Okay, all right. Camille.
Yes. So at Recovery Cafe, well, personally, I think to become culturally competent is truly to provide opportunities for training, but also to have staff that's representative of the community that you're serving as well. I feel like that's one of the most important pieces, just aligning with the idea of the peer-to-peer model, having individuals with like experiences come together to learn and grow from each other, and also going into those communities. So meeting people where they are, and also meeting them where they are in a way that is engaging and inclusive, so that community can be accepting to any type of support that you're offering. At the Recovery Cafe, we believe in welcoming all pathways to recovery, and we truly practice in meeting a person where they are. It's not about us telling you about your recovery journey. It's about us sitting alongside of you and learning from you and taking those steps with you and understanding you, and also going back to understand ourselves and our own biases as well. So at Recovery Cafe Indy, we strive to make sure that all of our staff is trained. We do trainings on deepening racial awareness. We also do trainings on understanding homelessness and mental health. So providing opportunities for us all to learn, because sometimes, as we say, we don't know what we don't know. So sometimes we don't understand that we're not being culturally competent because we've never been in a situation that has brought that to the forefront. So definitely understanding those biases, meeting individuals where they are, and having staffing that represents the community that you're serving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Colleen.
Well, I want to share with you a story to help bring some context. You know, my community, we are originally from the plains of Nebraska and Kansas. We had a strong agricultural community, and then we were moved by the government on what my ancestors called the long walk to Oklahoma. And along the way, my ancestors brought along our seeds, the seeds that we have grown since time immemorial in Nebraska and Kansas area, and we took them to Oklahoma to propagate them, to grow and sustain our community. When we got to Oklahoma, my ancestors did their very best to grow these seeds, but we were in a very inhospitable place. Oklahoma was where they moved a lot of Native people because it was the most undesirable land. And when we got there, we tried to put our seeds into this ground, and it didn't grow, and it didn't grow, and they tried and they tried. And I like to tell that story because what we know about the Native community is that we have been placed in places where we are not allowed to grow, where we are not allowed to propagate and to encourage our community in the ways that are good to our community, that work in our community. And so when we think about the work at the Chief Seattle Club of Recovery, we think from a place of how can we find the right ground for this person to grow. And we think of a story first model, a model that understands every person's individual story. I just told you a story from the Pawnee Nation, but we serve over 250 different tribal groups within our organization. And we come together because there is a strong alliance as Indigenous people, but we are not a homogenous group. There's over many different languages and cultural groups that need to come together. And so we think of a story first, and we think about that there has to be ways for us to understand that individual and what they're going through. We recently opened a new bridge housing project called Eagle Village. And one of the things that came about with Eagle Village is the moment we got these folks into housing, the moment that their stories were being heard, where they were getting daily support, we saw many of our folks reduce their drinking or just stop drinking altogether. And I think that that is a beautiful image of providing a place for these seeds to grow and these seeds to belong and these seeds to be nurtured by their community. And so that is our philosophy at the Chief Seattle Club, is that we understand the trauma, we understand the pain of carrying these seeds around and not having a place for them to grow. And we say to our community, come to us. We will help you, we will support you, we will hear your story, and we will help you grow in this place and see you nurtured and affirmed for who you are.
I love that. I am like totally feeling that. This is the idea again of having places where people can feel like they are held. What I'm hearing is this idea of representation and why representation is important, why it's important to be heard and recognized for who you are, and the idea of walking with people on their own path. Amazing, y'all. I'm loving it. I got another question for you. Ready? I'm gonna start with you, Colleen, and this is the question I have. What's missing in our systems of care, service delivery models that would be helpful for the communities that you serve? So we operate in this particular system, and I know all of you see folks, and I'm wondering, what do you feel is missing, and what do you think is needed?
Yeah, I want to answer that in so many different ways, but what I think is missing for the Native community, for the people that we get to serve, is this understanding that that the trauma has been so severe and so harsh that there has to be a lot of patience, a lot of walking alongside, a lot of sitting down and eating. I totally agree with you, Victor. Like, food is a huge part of our program. I'm thinking of this one beautiful elder that we serve at the Chief Seattle Club, and she had been removed from a boarding school at a very young age. I mean, from her village into a boarding school. So many Native children were removed from their families and pushed into boarding school as a method of genocide against Native people. And so she had never returned to her home village after about this age of 6 years old, and had ended up moving here in Seattle and become homeless. And we had a traditional food day. And this is a day where we brought in food from all over the country of traditional foods. And by some amazing way, we had gotten, now this might be gross to some of you, but it's delicious for Alaska Natives. We had brought in seal oil. And we had some traditional dry fish, dry salmon, that I grew up doing this, where you dip it into the seal oil. It's incredibly nutrient filled. It's really good for you. And she was so thrilled, so like moved to tears to get to have this opportunity to reconnect to her traditional food. And she ate that seal oil, and she ate that seal oil. It wasn't just, you know, an excitement. It wasn't about the food. It was excitement about connection. It was excitement about being in a place where we understood who she was as a Native person, and that she would be able to, every time she dipped that in the fish in the seal oil, she was healing, that it was a piece of healing that was happening because she was reconnecting to her sovereign right to have traditional foods. So on the journey of recovery are many different connection points. And we'll hear it over and over again, meeting someone where they're at and saying, we're here with you, and we're gonna be with you, and we're gonna feed you and nurture you along your journey.
It's beautiful. Victor.
Yeah, so if I were to think about what is missing in the system, oftentimes when we think about recovery, we think that recovery starts when an individual completes treatment. But the ACRS modality is that recovery happens in parallel with treatment. So when an individual is admitted for SUD treatment, immediately we link them to a peer specialist, and that happens in parallel. And I think that is not a model that is often practiced in the system. And I actually think that that actually helps to provide support and help that individual to navigate the system. It is somewhat controversial because some people still have this belief that you have to be complete treatment first before you can be in recovery. But I think a parallel track really can provide tremendous support. The other thing that I would also be thinking about is that because I'm an administrator, I'm always thinking about funding. So we know that Medicaid right now actually reimburses for peer specialists. However, it's great that peer specialists work now can be reimbursed by healthcare authority. However, the challenges is that, at least in the immigrants and refugees communities, because English may not be our native language, it makes it tremendously difficult for somebody to be certified to become a peer specialist. So before somebody can be recognized for the work, you need to go through this, I would call it a very cumbersome bureaucratic process to do it. So I think what the system is missing is recognizing that BIPOC individuals provide care and support that do not need any kind of bureaucratic certification. Let us do the work, honor our process, and do not tell us the prescriptive methods of how to do it, but we can do it throughout the process and deliver the outcomes. And two more things that I will add is that language-specific recovery support services group are very hard to find. And that, again, has to do with the shortage of individuals that can do the work. And the compensation for those who are paid as peer specialists, I think it needs to be reimbursed at a higher rate so people can do the work. I just look at the census results for the household income in the city of Seattle. We are looking at a median household income of $100,000 annually. I just cannot imagine how a peer specialist is going to be motivated to do the work. So I think there's a lot that we can do that. So the last thing that I will add that is missing is also youth-specific recovery support group. Those are also pretty difficult to find. Again, you need to have a peer that is in high school or in college to be leading that group.
Okay, thank you. Here's Seema.
I want to add something that has to do, when we treated the person, we treated the whole person. And here, you know, the clients come to Consejo Counseling Services, and we treat it for whatever is needed to treat mental health, you know, issues or, you know, substance abuse. But then when we look at the person, yes, the recovery is happening in some level, but then what happened with this client? What did he goes after the session? What did he lives? What kind of housing that he has right now? So for us, what it would be good to improve is housing, and then different type of housing for different types of situation for each client. Also, I want to mention that I am very thankful to the Seattle Police Department. I'm so thankful because I have many contacts with them, and they were very helpful because they had this program that's called Crisis Responders. And I wish the same program was in other cities because they're so amazing. They actually came to do a visit to one of our clients, and they were so compassionate, so understanding, and I know they're trained and deal with situations of crisis with clients, so mental health. So, but I wish that program it can be in different cities because I haven't seen it, or maybe I'm not aware. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Camille.
I would primarily say inclusiveness and accessibility. I know here in Indianapolis, the recovery community is very much faith-based. And as we all know, not everyone identifies as being faith-based. So how can we still provide individuals with those services without having to be attached to a faith-based organization? And also, I definitely see a lot of barriers just in how individuals recovering from different substances is treated and how they are categorized and what access to treatment that they have. I can say in Indianapolis, you definitely see, well, I'm sure this is across the country, it's very much focused on opioid use disorder. Not everyone is specifically recovering from opioid use disorder, but in funding, funding specifically, also in the type of treatment that is available, those are the things that they ask. Well, is it opioid specific? Oh, well, if it's not opioid specific, I'm sorry, they don't fall within our program parameters. So definitely just having a broader sense of what recovery looks like and what individuals are recovering from, because right now we are most heavily focused on opioids, which to say in communities of color, yes, it is very much present, but there's also recovery supports needed for things such as crack cocaine. We know the crack epidemic was very huge, and not having those type of supports or being able to call around to organizations and say, hey, I have someone who really wants to get in treatment specifically for this substance, and to be able to say, well, we can't treat that here, or we don't do that here, we don't have the funding for that here. So really broadening the supports for recovery, which is why I'm so heavily connected and passionate about the work we do at the Recovery Cafe, because it's truly about being inclusive. And as we stated, just meeting a person where they are, it doesn't matter what you're recovering from, we're all recovering from something. So definitely reducing that stigma to make it seem like that we're not all on a journey recovering from something. It may not be substance use, but it may be trauma, it may be systemic racism, it may be mental health, it may be depression. So how can we really get to a point where we can reduce that stigma along with that, so then we can all feel as if we are a part of this together, and we can have that sense of connection to heal as a community as a whole.
Yes, 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 yes. I think that what I love about everything that everyone has talked about is it's really understanding what the community needs. I do feel that a lot of what happens for us and what we see in systems, there's not enough places to practice. There's not enough bridges, and there are not enough opportunities for people to get to the next step and to be held. And I feel like what I'm hearing from all of you is that you have a little bit of that in all of your organizations. I have another question for you. What suggestions do you have for people who are watching tonight? So that's POCs, that's allies. where do we need to see changes? I'd like to start with Camille.
Just going back to reduce the stigma, change the language, and we all need to get to a point where we're willing to connect on a deeper level. So that sense of authentic connection, meeting someone where they are, getting to know someone for who they are, because that will help you in delivering any type of service to them, provide them with opportunities to grow, allow them to feel as though they are important and that they're not defined by their history, their trauma, their abuse. None of those things should define a person, but how can we get you from where you are to where you want to be, and walking alongside of them and allowing them to dictate the steps and not us to feel as though we are the professionals of someone else's life journey.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Colleen.
Wow, I just want to do whatever Camille says to do. Like,
I know,
just
right?
Brilliant. I'm pumped up. I'm feel inspired to do the work more and better. So thank you, Camille, and to everyone. This has just been really wonderful to hear all these great ideas. I think that, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot when we consider what we've been going through as a country, and we all saw the horrific and vivid video that show the killings. There is such it was such an opportunity for us to shift and turn in our country and in our thinking and how we have to respond. And so when I think about what I want people to know is that we need to be sharing about the harm that has happened in our country and how we can move forward. And I think that, like, a lot of folks just don't know. They truly don't understand, you know. And I do believe that, because I think at the heart of every single person is this desire for good, is this desire to see good for their humanity, desire for their fellow human beings, to love each other. But sometimes there's such misunderstanding. And so if you are an ally, we need you out there sharing and talking and being and having understanding that will help, you know, everyone else come to understanding. I think that, you know, you've heard me talk several times in this conversation. I don't always do that, but today I did, talking about genocide. It's true. We are a country that is founded on genocide. It's just part of the history, but a lot of folks just don't understand that. So if I could, you know, have a wish tonight that we have this huge understand. If we don't walk through that truth, then it's hard for us to get to the healing.
Yeah, I'm loving that too. What you're talking about, Colleen, makes me also think about the idea of making space. So making space and being able to create a welcoming space so people can share all of who they are and to feel comfortable in being able to do that. Victor. Yeah, Victor.
Thank you, Danny and Colin, for sharing. I would say that I'm very inspired by Michelle Obama. So you can see what my necklace represents. It represents vote. So I would say that the team is out for recovery. So I would say that we vote because then we can represent our community who are underrepresented and amplify that voice, which is what we're all trying to do today. So if you haven't registered to vote yet, I encourage you to do that. If you have done that, then help somebody who is eligible to do that, because policy changes are so critical to allow us to do the work that we do. And beyond that, I think the way that the system is being set up right now, the way that it's impacting BIPOC individuals, I would say that we face a lot of institutional barriers. I would also say that if we talk about funding system, I actually think it's a very racist funding system. BIPOC individuals are always at the lower end of the pyramid. So how do we change that? Then I think we need to do beyond collaborating. We need to advocate together. We need to educate together. And I recently was told by my mom that to make changes, you need to be a little rebellious. And I completely agree with her. So we need to fight. We need to not be fearful. And it's the time, this is the time that really inspires us and motivates us to be rebellious and make the changes, take the calculated risk. And changes happen is because we take risks. We shouldn't be complacent and too comfortable in the current situation, because I'm sure we all had a heart attack watching the debate yesterday. I don't want to get into politics.
Yeah, yes, Victor, on all counts. I really do think that this is the time to step up. This is the time to speak out in any way that you can do that. Sometimes it's about taking the risk to be able to state what is needed because it hasn't been put out on the table. So appreciate your words. Here's Seema.
So what I want to mention is if we focus on the person, we need to start working as a community more, educate ourselves about mental health and understand, not in deep knowledge, like a mental health therapist or a counselor, but to understand the behavior of, the individual has when suffering from mental illness. I have witnessed, by watching the news where individuals suffering from mental illness, they end up in jail for a behavior that was not understood. So my hope that there is some policies in place where we get more educated, not just professionals, because, I know, that the police department in Seattle, they had this crisis response, which is, I think, is one step towards changing. We need to change how we view, the individuals that suffering from mental illness. We need to understand where they are. And as a community, we can walk with them too, not just the professionals. And we need the help of everybody. And that's how I think we're gonna, the stigma is still there. I mean, here we have so many professionals, we have a lot of therapists all over the world now, but the stigma is still present. And I used to blame it in cultural aspect, like, okay, I'm from Mexico, and Mexico, it has this bias, weird, the taboo, but I can see it everywhere. So we need to fight that. We need to fight the stigma, mental illness.
Very much. I very much agree with that. I feel like that we have to have more conversation about mental illness and what that means, and saying that it's okay for treatment. I also, I just need to put a word in. I need more people to join me as a person of color in working in mental health. I recognize the fact that there are very few of us who are at that table who discuss what happens in mental health. And it's important that we have representation. There is a lot of movement around kind of having separate systems. And I believe that what we really need is to be able to have more people who are coming into the field, who are telling their own personal stories, who are teaching, who are walking with people. We just need more of that. And I just want to say that would be my suggestion. Anybody thinking about wanting to figure out how they can do more work in that field at any type of level? I think it's really, really important, and opportunities for us to also to mentor and to bring people on. We just need more of that. So I have like a ton more questions, but what I want to ask you is, are there any questions from all of you? Anybody have anything to put into the chat? And I am so excited because I wrote some extra questions. Oh, here we go. Here's a contact. Okay. Oh, that's to me. Sorry. Any questions? Did I miss any? All right. Here's one for y'all. You ready? So I have a new ring, and my ring says "Good Trouble." So, and that's a comment that is attributed to John Lewis about trouble. And he says, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America. My question to the panel is, what good trouble do folks need to get into for recovery? Kind of goes back to Victor's comment. Who wants to start? I want to start with Victor because you kind of started the rebellious piece. So I'm going to start with you.
I know that's thanks to my mom, though, to tell me to be rebellious. For folks that do not know, I'm from Singapore, so we are known to be a very disciplined, structured country. And we also tend to talk very fast. That's my excuse for everything. But I would say that going back to the theme of good trouble, it's really this time that we are living right now and the state of this country that we just have to get out of our comfort zone and be willing to have, not just take calculated risk, but start small by having uncomfortable conversation with a family member, with a friend, with a colleague, and talk about, if somebody is, again, do not understand what is anti-Blackness, that I'm still learning every day, and people still do not understand why we need to support BLM, then have the uncomfortable conversation with that individual, because that's how we learn. And we have to agree to disagree. And I think that healthy conflicts are okay because we are different individuals, but put ourselves to be willing to have the uncomfortable conversation. And if we see something that is wrong, whether it's an organization structure or in a funding structure, organization structure, then do not be afraid to raise that issue, even if it's just one person. Because I just think that sometimes you may not, because somebody may be waiting for me to do it. So if you keep waiting, then no action happens. So be brave, take that first step to do it. And I'm still trying to do it every day to learn how to have that uncomfortable conversation, because I'm taking a calculated risk whenever I do that. And I'm an immigrant and I'm a person of color. I'm a gay person. So there are just many system barriers that I just think that I encourage us to be brave. And beyond that, also be kind to ourselves and be kind to others.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Do you think that there really is a piece of bravery about walking out and walking out on a limb in terms of being able to raise different pieces? We save people's lives by doing that, though, by being willing to talk about what is difficult to talk about. All right, Camille.
Just to piggyback off of Victor, it's definitely having those challenging conversations and having a seat at the table. And if a seat is not there at the table, create your own table and take a seat and take a stance. And, you know, I truly believe in that. And also to speak out on behalf of those who may not be represented at those tables. So for individuals who are not persons of color, to be able to say, hey, you're serving a community where 60% of the population is African American. There's no representation here at the table. There's no representation here. And, you know, I say this, and I wish she was here today, because Beth, who's the executive director of We Bloom, who bought Recovery Cafe, that's something that she does a lot. And I commend her for that, to be able to have those conversations and truly be in a space where she understands the power and privilege that comes with being a white female, but using that platform to be able to speak out and say, we need representation for the community that we're serving. We cannot truly say that we're serving a community when there's no one here that identifies with the community, that understands their struggles, their trauma, their lifestyle, all of those things. We cannot truly serve in that sense. So again, those individuals who are not persons of color, who have those seats at the table, take that risk and get into that good trouble by speaking out to make sure that all spaces are inclusive and they're representative of the community that we're serving.
Okay, Camille. Okay, I love it. Oof. Okay, I got all kind of feelings going on here. Colleen.
Wow, it is really hard to follow everyone on this panel. So, wow, I just want to, agree so much with what's just been said. I think that, I think all of us in the work that we're sharing, we're talking about belonging. We're saying like, you know, there's we want our relatives who are in recovery to understand how much they belong, how much they mean to us, how much we want them. And I think that the good trouble I would invite you all to get in is, who are you asking to belong to you? Who are you welcoming into your circle? I think that when we look at the dinner table and we look at the neighborhoods, everything is, we have lived in such a segregated society still. Who are the people that you're calling into your life to belong to you? And do they look just like you? Are they just, do they drive the same cars as you? That's a question to understand. And I think, again, I believe in the goodness of the Seattle community and of people. And we all want to belong. So find those places and those pathways of belonging to someone that's not like you, and discover what the journey will be.
Okay, now I'm all teary. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. It is about the intersections that we share, is it not? And are you willing to do that? I love what you said, Colleen. That's fabulous. I'm going to calm down and I'm going to go to Ersima.
So I love everything that I'm hearing. And again, I'm very happy that I was invited to this panel because I'm learning so much from different organizations. I'm all for stepping out of a comfort zone because the people that we serve deserve for us to give them a voice. They don't have a voice sometimes. And we can do that. We can't be afraid. We have to own it to ourselves and to them. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question from Cheryl. Cheryl wants to know if we can address the lack of integrated care for those in recovery or treatment and recovery. Did I say that right, Cheryl? I hope so. You know, Victor, I'm going to start with you because of the work that you do at KCRC, and I can jump in as well.
Sure, sounds good. I would say that when we talk about integrated managed care, essentially it's linking primary care with behavioral health care, including mental health and substance use disorder. And I want to, right now, if for those of you that are not familiar, that's the 1135 Medicaid waiver that actually supports the Medicaid transformation projects to support the integrated managed care. However, when we talk about integrated managed care, or short for IMC, it's not, again, recovery support services, as I noted earlier, that is being reimbursed by HCA, but you have to be a certified peer specialist in order to bill for that services. The challenge here is that when we talk about IMC, peer recovery support work is actually not recognized in a way. I often say that behavioral health care is the children of the primary care system. So if we compare it with recovery support services, then recovery support services will be the grandchildren. I'm talking about the funding system. So it lacks parity here. It lacks parity here that it doesn't have the same leverage. However, though, there's a Chinese saying called "wei ji," that's pronounced "wei ji." What it means is that when there's a crisis, it comes opportunities. Well, you're living in a pandemic time, and I really think that this unusual time also present unique opportunities with a lot of flexible waiver to allow us to do the work that we want to do. These are the opportunities that allow us to really elevate the work we do for IMC to include recovery support services as something that can be recognized. And again, that will require us to make some policy changes and advocate for it. One critical component for IMC is to address social determinants of health, housing, employment, right, and basic food needs. I have always think about this idea that I hope one day it will happen. It will be almost a dream if it happens, is to allow peer specialists to provide health navigation services and allow the peer specialists to be able to support individuals to apply for SNAP food stamps, Medicaid, or qualified health plan. Right now, that funding climate for IMC, in order to access primary care and behavioral health care, you need to have Medicaid or qualified health plans to access it. We are in a system that do not recognize community health workers and peer specialists. And I think we need to change that and allow organizations such as Recovery Cafe to be able to access funding support to do health navigation work and be compensated for that. We are expected to do this kind of work, which we are already doing as a community-based organization, but the funding are only going to Federal Qualified Health Center. Again, that is an equity issue, which is why I use a comparison of the children and grandchildren analogy. And I love my family, which is why I use that analogy.
I absolutely love that. You know, I always say that what is important is to be able to be creative. Now that we have SUD peers as well, being able to have that opportunity about how do you bridge those different things for people? Social determinants of health and why it is so important, it's really about the way people live. If we're trying to make changes in terms of how people are living and how they are getting to recovery, it really is about having a holistic perspective about how people live their lives. So you are not going to just be thinking about treatment, right? You're going to be thinking about, let's talk about the financial changes. Let's talk about those connections in the community. What we're really trying to do is reduce isolation. Can we do some financial literacy? Can we do some health literacy? And who can do that? And how can we get paid? Right? Because the issue sometimes comes down to everybody is providing these services. We have to be creative about it. And we also have to have representation in the way we provide those services. Can I get an amen? Yes.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm loving this. And you all might have to disconnect me. Laura Cooley has this really interesting question. How about the connection to international inequality? And the comment is, it seems that interconnection to what is happening globally is often ignored and is this particular period in the US history. But if people make that connection, wouldn't we perhaps have more of an enriched dialogue, more authentic within our country? What do y'all think about that? Colleen.
You know, I'm not quite sure how to answer the question. I mean, like, I do know that, you know, around the country, around the globe, there are many Indigenous communities who are experiencing homelessness and continue to struggle with recovery. And so I do think that there is some connections. I know that I've had some many reach outs to our relatives out in British Columbia, Auckland, a very similar city to Seattle in some ways, and the same kind of situation of Indigenous homelessness and relatives who need those recovery services. So I think, yes, I would disagree that there's a lot for us to learn and a lot, and I think we should be very open to what is going around in you know, cutting edge services. I know that I'm thinking of some articles that I've read about what's going on in the Netherlands, for instance, and their work there. And I think that, you know, hopefully our system will be open to piloting new ways and discovering new ways, and, you know, and trying out new methods that might be very successful.
If I may, I actually want to make a quick comment around that. Again, I think during this time, all of us are doing telehealth, which is why we are on this Zoom platform meetings. If we think about having global interconnections or conversation, technology will allow us to do that. Yes, some people may have digital literacy issues, but if people are able to access technology, then I think we can be creative in about how to engage those international conversation, partners with other people. I always think that it's good to ask them to have a collaborative learning model, identify entities that are already doing the work well globally, and then have that discussion. And for people who know me well, I actually hate reading. I only read things that is work related. I don't read books and stuff like that. But during the pandemic, I actually joined the International POC book club. And through that POC book club, I learned so much about different cultures and different countries. And it actually inspires me about can we use this platform to actually have those global conversations? Because our life experience from different countries are very different, and having collaborative learning, I think, is helpful. And share resources, because I just think that sometimes people have this idea about, I don't want to overshare what I know because I'm afraid that the person may become my competitor. But I just think that by sharing resources and being collaborative, we uplift one another. And again, the BIPOC individuals are often invisible. We're often not seen, which is why it's so important for us to make noise and to uplift one another.
Mm-hmm. Irasima, do you want to jump in on that?
I always believe in connecting. I mean, we can always learn by connecting outside, our comfort zone. You never know until we try it, because what everybody's doing, that we can learn from it to make it better. I think working together, united, that's what makes us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It just, finding out ways to do it will be good. We're talking about getting out of a comfort zone. Maybe this is one way.
Mm-hmm. I have another question. Between COVID, political unrest, and social justice waves, 2020 has been tiring. But these speakers are so inspiring. Do you have advice for recovery allies who might be feeling the fatigue? Camille, can I start with you? Is that okay?
Always say self-care is key. We have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, that we're doing, that we check in with ourselves on a regular basis, no matter what that looks like from you, but always find something throughout the day that you can enjoy. And sometimes the great thing to do is to disconnect. And I can say that because I'm actually in Savannah, Georgia right now. Definitely to have a moment when you can disconnect and you can recharge and you can have some time to really do that inner work, because we know there's so much going on and it's so overwhelming, and we hold that within us, and it comes out in several different ways, and sometimes we don't even recognize when we're feeling fatigued or when we're feeling overwhelmed, because we haven't taken a moment to pause, maybe even just 5 minutes of silence, as we do in the cafe. Taking that 5 minutes to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with a higher power, if that's what you believe, haven't set an intention for yourself, but really find a moment where you can more so focus on the positive things and things that you can do. Because if we continue to be in a space where we know negativity is around us and we're always consumed with that, we're going to take away from us being able to be effective in the work that we do, because we become drained. And it's challenging to do this type of work when you are drained and you have so many things coming up against you. So just reconnect, recharge, take care of yourself, however that looks like for you. Find something that brings you joy and take a moment to really be in that space.
Yeah, I would totally echo that. I just did a weekend at the beach, and I can't always do that, and not everyone can do that, but I need to sometimes get to something that's a little bit bigger than myself. And so, sometimes that is going to Alki, or it is taking a space for myself on a Sunday morning. That seems to be when I can hear the best. What would other folks add? Colleen.
Oh, I love this question. I love the answers you guys have given already. I think I was thinking about this today because, we had several little trips planned throughout, and then COVID happened, and haven't really taken, vacation the way I normally would. And I was thinking, I'm gonna try to make myself take an hour of vacation every day, even though there's like things looming on me. I just know that I can't be effective in the work if I'm exhausted, and if I'm not sleeping, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not eating healthy. And sometimes if I'm not indulging in something. I think that right now this is such a hard time that, you know, like I had given up sugar for like 18 months. I'm eating some sugar again. You know, there's just like, this is a weird time, and we just have to be patient with ourselves and give ourselves room for, you know, a few extra pounds, and we'll burn it off after this is over. But I think so much patience with ourselves. I can't say enough about the benefit of a little exercise. It's been the key for getting me through this really crazy time. So, and one final thing I'll say is that being aligned with your mission, you know, like sometimes I need to like just reassess my own personal mission and also the mission of my organization. But to know that we all have our own place in this world, a place that we need to, you know, that our communities need us, and to be aligned with that vision always helps me. So that's what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. Hiroshima, what you got?
I totally agree with that. As a therapist, we have to practice what we preach. We have to take care of ourselves. It all comes with, you know, how much I care about myself, but also how much I care about people that I serve. If I take care of myself, and I'm gonna be able to take care of the people that are here in front of me, they need my help. Remember, we become their voices. And for me, I have to always look at myself and say, how do I feeling? Am I feeling okay? Do I need, I just recently took a week off, which was very refreshing. So we always need to look and see, are we doing the job that we need to do in the way that we need to do it? You know, because are we doing more harm, you know, by not taking care of ourselves? So, and then to be positive and to normalize this, because this happens to us, it happens to all over the world. But it's just to have hope and resilience, and then that someday this is gonna change to the better, and just to have this positive attitude all the time.
Yeah. Victor, you have anything you want to add real quick? Mike, mute. You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I like the reference that Colleen gave about exercising, because I'm actually a certified personal trainer and yoga instructor. So I really think that you need to take care of the physical first before you can do the mental. You need to have the energy to do the work. And then beyond that, not everybody can do that, but I highly, highly recommend that the close friends that we have, that we socialize, are not the same people that we have in the workplace, because I really think that I see them enough already. So because it's inevitable that even when you are in a social setting with your colleagues, you end up talking about work. So then there's no professional boundaries there. Not that everybody does that. I'm not saying that people in workplace cannot become good friends, but personally, I find that very, very helpful, that it helped me to detach completely and having that professional boundaries. And I also make a very intentional effort that I try to remember when my colleagues are on vacation, I don't email them, I don't text them, I don't call them, because some people just they come back to hundreds of emails, and I don't think they need to see that. I just want to I think that sometimes for people who do social services work, we have this tendency that we want to do everything and save the world. Maybe we want to do that, but I also think that we want to really respect that professional boundaries that sometimes I think we lack. Especially with a different generation, I tend to think that sometimes there's this expectation that we need to work until we die, but I don't think that's a good idea. The work will always be there.
Okay. Well, I have another question. What barrier do you often face while dealing with people in recovery that can be challenging?
I can start.
Okay.
I'll just say specifically with the population we serve, because we are dealing with a large population of individuals who are dealing with homelessness. It's very hard to focus on recovery when you have to think about where you're going to sleep, or when you have to think about if you're going to have a meal tomorrow. Or you have to think about the environment that I'm going into is heavily infested, with drugs, and maybe I just, just need a moment to escape the reality that I am homeless. So that's what I think is the biggest challenges for individuals in recovery, specifically those who are homeless, but also thinking about those who have co-occurring disorders, so substance use and mental health disorders. It's very challenging sometimes to separate the two, and also to provide them a space where they can get the support that they need that addresses both ends. And I think that's sometimes is very, very challenging in the community that we serve. And also just hearing from a lot of our peers, it's just the belief that recovery is possible. A lot of individuals who are dealing with recovery have been thrown away, have been definitely stigmatized. And so they assume that belief within themselves that it's not possible. Like, yeah, it's maybe possible for you, but how can I truly relate that to me? That's why I'm a very much so advocate for the peer-to-peer model, the peer-to-peer approach, because then that does give you someone directly who you can feel like, well, you did do it and I can relate to you, and maybe you're still on that journey. We can talk about the daily struggles that you have, and we can, circulate resources and all those things. But it's very challenging when you don't have that sense of relatability, because the population we serve, they will call you out in a second and say that you can't tell me, you can't relate to me, you're a professional, like you can't relate to me. So I'm very much so an advocate of the peer-to-peer model, and continue to push in our country as a whole is reduce the stigma, provide individuals with opportunities who have lived experience to help those who are in those experiences at the moment, and provide them with the support and the financial backing in order to do so, because that's where true growth and healing, from what I see, comes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Victor?
Well, I think along what Camille said, the fundamental needs are really critical, and especially if we are talking about the immigrants and refugees populations, a lot of our communities live below the household poverty level line. So if you don't have food, don't have housing, don't have employment, how are you going to be successful in recovery? And then I just remember learned yesterday that the SNAP program, which is food stamp, a household average on a monthly basis receive no more than $200 a month. Reflect on that for a second. How are you going to survive with that, right? So I think those are the fundamental needs that we need to address, which is why I think policy changes are so important. And then if there are going to be incentives that we can provide as a contingency management to support somebody in recovery, which I know some organizations are able to do, then that can support that individual first. Because if I am homeless, the first thing that I'm thinking about is that where I'm going to eat next, where I'm going to sleep. And I just think that, again, that is an area that I think we can continue to advocate and let our legislators know that contingency management is effective, and that is a way to reduce the first barriers that we, as providers, that we continue to face.
Hiroshima, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I just want to add that it looks like we had more barriers now with COVID.
Yeah.
It's always the underprivileged, the poor, that is always struggling somehow or another. Before COVID, we had transportation issues, but so they couldn't come to the office because they didn't have money to pay for the bus. But we always in Consejo, we provide those resources like that passes. Now we have the issue that we do in telehealth, and some clients don't have internet or enough data for the internet to have those sessions. So the barriers are going to be there. So luckily, we have been working towards meeting, to fighting those barriers here at Consejo, so have another. So we have Consejo, we still open. We decline it doesn't have an internet, or doesn't even have a phone. They can come to the office and receive services here, not face-to-face, but they can go to another different office. So we're talking about barriers, is sadly to say, they're there, but I think the community, I believe in the community. I believe in the organization, and somehow we're always there just to make things better. So, we can't lose faith. We can't think that we're not doing nothing. We're doing something to help with those barriers.
Okay. I kind of forgot that we're supposed to end at 6:30. So I want to ask you all one last thing. What's something that inspires you or gives you hope right now for POCs in recovery?
I'll jump in and answer that one right away. Is I'm just so impressed and overwhelmed with the goodness of the staff that work alongside me, the Cheese Seattle Club. They just have so much belief in the potential of our relatives that we serve. We had a beautiful staff meeting. It's been hard to have, an all staff meeting, and we had one yesterday that was, I just had tears running down my face, hearing the dedication, hearing how grateful they were that we have remained open in the middle of a really, hard time. And so I just am grateful for, the partners that just join in this journey of belief that our relatives deserve every gift that we can give them, and that we should believe in their amazing lives, and that they deserve so much. So that's just a little bit of it. And I also just want to say that what also gives me hope is seeing people that have walked the path and have gone through it. And I have some people that are very close to me who have done that, and I look at what they're doing now, and I just feel so honored to walk alongside them. So that's a little bit of what I'm thinking.
Okay. Irasima?
Yeah, so I'm going to say that what moves me is that I feel honored to be part of the community that cares, and I'm passionate working with people, walking their path in recovery. And so that's what I want to say. And just this is a community always working towards improving, helping us with what we do.
Mm-hmm. Victor?
I think three things inspire me and give me hope for the recovery support work that we do together. One is that because of the current movement, there is more intention and focus on equity. There is a constant dialogue right now that we hear every day. Not that we are far away from equity, but I'm glad that that conversation is more intentional. And the second thing that I would say that I'm beginning to see more and more private foundations stepping up to support BIPOC individuals. To put it in perspective, when it comes to Asian funding from private foundation, we are funded at less than 1% nationally. So, but I'm glad to see that there are more private foundations stepping up to support BIPOC individuals to do the work that we do. And the third thing that I would say is that, again, with the movement, I'm also seeing more BIPOC individuals partnering together. This platform is one good example of that inspires me.
And Camille.
I can say, as uncomfortable as this time is for all of us, the veil has been lifted on a lot of deep-rooted issues within our community. And I think because the veil has now been lifted, our voices are able to be heard, and individuals are able to listen and understand a lot of what we're saying, and how systemic racism for so long has caused a lot of issues that we're seeing in regards to recovery for communities of color. It's definitely deep rooted in systemic racism and the lack of access to services and support, and the stigmatizing and the war on drugs, and you know, all of those things. So I'm happy to say that we're at a point where the veil is definitely being lifted. And it gives me joy to be, again, on a team of individuals, like others have stated on this panel, who truly are about meeting people where they are, who are truly about understanding themselves so that they can understand other people. And that's not just within Indianapolis, but just across the entire Recovery Cafe network, and the stance that we have been taking with social injustices, and adding that language of systemic racism into recovery and what that looks like for the community that we serve. And lastly, also just within the Black community in general, well, no, all communities of color, really getting to a point where we're starting to understand mental health, and also understand the need for treatment, support, and that sense of connection is what's really going to help us on that journey. Again, we all know in communities of color, it's what happened in the house stays in the house. You don't talk about those things. You get over it. You're a Black woman. You're so strong. You know, all these things. And we're finally getting to a point where we can see that, look, we're all recovering from something. We all need assistance. It's okay to not feel okay sometimes. And it's okay to talk about that in order for you to heal. So that just gives me so much joy. And again, just being on a panel, you know, like this just further solidifies, you know, that sense of joy and just the direction that we're going in. I'm just super excited to see the direction that we're going in as a country.
Awesome. This has been fabulous, y'all. Fabulous. I want to thank our panelists, and I want to thank our co-sponsors, King County Recovery Coalition, Recovery Cafe Seattle, the Recovery Cafe Network, Northwest Addiction Technology Transfer Center. And there's a few more people, hold on now. The Alcohol and Drug Abuse Institute, University of Washington, and the Washington Recovery Alliance. I want to make sure also that you all know about Washington Listens. It's a resource for you in terms of being able to, hello, what? Oh, there it is. Yes, right there. If you're experiencing stress from COVID-19, you can give them a call. Thanks again, everyone. This has been wonderful, and I have enjoyed this, and I've enjoyed all of you. We stand together in terms of supporting everyone.